Hey everyone, Ghost of August here and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be discussing the common misconceptions about scoliosis as someone who has scoliosis and some of the symptoms that I had growing up. So, we're going to be talking about the myths first. Myth 1, it was caused by bad posture. This is completely untrue. The actual cause of scoliosis is unknown, but there are links to genetics and also some neuromuscular conditions. For me, unfortunately, I just lost the genetic lottery. It happens. Sucks, but there we go. Myth 2. It always causes pain. Again, not true. When I was a child, I didn't even notice I had it. As I became a teenager and into adulthood, the pain really started. However, for me, I have severe scoliosis. There were signs I did have it at an early age. For example, in physical education, PE to those in the UK, sports for some others, I could not do a cartwheel. I couldn't roll into a ball. I just couldn't make my body do that, and my back was very uneven, but we'll discuss that in a bit more detail later. Myth 3. Scoliosis is only cosmetic. Oh my god, don't I wish. Trust me, it has had an impact on my daily life, how I walk, how much pain I'm in, how I sleep, how I breathe. I could go on and on, but it would be a very long video. Myth 4. Back braces fix scoliosis. Again, not true. They can prevent it from getting worse, yes, but outright fixing it, no, not true. Sometimes with the back brace, you don't need surgery. Other times, you still need surgery. It's best to seek medical advice and listen to medical advice. I am not a medical professional, but we will again talk about that in a bit. So, signs I had scoliosis. So I think I've talked about this, but I don't mind going over it. They found my scoliosis by accident when I was maybe about 11. So my mum had pneumonia even. She kept getting reinfected, and they wanted to test both myself and my sister and my father to see if there were any clues as to where we were getting chest infections for us and pneumonia for my mum, or it developed into pneumonia. And we were getting them a lot. Long story short, mould was covered up by the previous owner of the house and not dealt with, and when we had the bathroom tiles removed by the shower, all hell broke loose. Basically, those spores got into our lungs. My mother's more than mine because I was a child and I preferred to have a quick shower and a long bath. And my dad's immune system was much, much stronger than my mother's, who has a separate condition that causes her immune system deficiency issues, which I don't know if she'd want me to say what it is, so I will just leave it at that. But this is not to state that the signs weren't there. So as a child, I had an uneven shoulder blade. One was sticking out more than the other. My mother first noticed this, however, when I had a horse riding accident and figured I broke my shoulder blade. However, I could move it, and the place I went to, no, I will not mention the name, by the way, said I was likely fine and I could move it just fine. We were also, and this is really stupid, please do not do this, we were also on holiday. We didn't have the right cover to get an x-ray, so it was way too expensive to get an x-ray, unfortunately. If I had been seriously hurt, it would have been covered. However, I wasn't. It was just bruising, so they refused to cover an x-ray. Please, if you are going on holiday, choose the right insurance. Make sure you are covered for everything. I was not. Since then, I have had tests done, thanks to the NHS, godsend of the UK, something I am incredibly grateful for. I have found I likely did fracture it, but that's something to talk about on a different day. Next one, I had an uneven shoulder or hip height. Don't know what I was about to say there. This is something a friend of mine noticed. Again, we were only little children. I never mentioned it to my family, as I was a very young child when I noticed, and I didn't know scoliosis was a thing. I wish it was taught in school. I wish parents were taught to keep an eye out. However, my mum didn't even know scoliosis was a thing, let alone me as like a 5 or 6 year old. So yeah, I don't blame her, I don't blame anyone. It's just one of those things. If I'd known it was a thing, I would have mentioned it to a doctor, but I didn't even know it was a thing. Third one, when bending forward, one side of my back was and is still higher than the other. It might have been very subtle back then, but nowadays it isn't subtle at all. You can really see it. I also favour one side more than the other. So I lean very heavily towards the right now, because that's when not so much now after surgery, but yeah, I used to lean very heavily towards the right, and I used to favour a lot of my right. My right side of my leg, my arm, etc. Much stronger than my left, much stronger. So I will state this: if you have any symptoms, if your child has any symptoms, if you have severe back pain, if you have some of these signs, I recommend you speak to the doctor, get it checked out. Even if it's nothing, please, if you can, please get it checked out. It is much easier to treat and manage when you're an adolescent. Yes, I completely agree. When you're a child, it's also a lot easier to manage and treat than when you're an adult. However, I have quite a few complications because it wasn't picked up until I was about 11, and by then it was too severe to do anything about without surgery, and they wanted to wait until I was old enough. Also, I've got another health issue that prevented surgery, so that's why it took so long. But because of my scoliosis, I have complications, and I have come to accept my disability, but I do wish I didn't have it. It does make life more difficult. It does make things more difficult. If you do have any questions, I will do my best to answer, but please remember, I am not a medical professional. I have not got a medical degree. I cannot give you medical advice nor diagnose. I can only give you an opinion based on my experience. So please take that on board when you ask. I don't mind talking about how it affects my daily life. I'm pretty sure I have in previous videos what sort of pain management I do. For example, things like paracetamol, do not recommend for my level of pain. It doesn't do anything. It's also dangerous to take too many paracetamol, so not recommended. But if you want to talk about it, if you want to ask questions, I'm more than happy to answer on Discord or on here. If you want to leave a comment, please do not feel bad for reaching out. Anyway, before I go on a long waffle like I like to, thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate all of you who take time out of your day. I am so sorry if this ends up being really long, but I think it's best people understand this condition, as it is a condition that a lot of people have and don't realise, because some of you lucky sods, I say that lovingly, don't have it very severely and can go through your day not realising you have it, whereas you've got people who can't. And I know there's people out there who've got it worse than me, and I feel really sorry for them. I genuinely do. It's hard to live with. It's a condition that sucks, in my opinion. It absolutely sucks. But anyway, thank you very much again for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe. I love to hear from you. And that is all from me today. Have a lovely 2nd of December. Bye for now. Bye.